Hope everybody is well. I hate the circumstances we're having to do this under, but we'll do the best we can and move on and move forward. Several things I just want to make you aware of. Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, will be a time I set aside for 7th grade for a Zoom meeting. I'll get you the information on that in terms of the code to get in and all that. That will be to come in and ask me any questions over the lessons that we're studying the next couple of days, because on Thursday you will have a test on the sections that we cover today and tomorrow. So once again, that'll be Thursday. You'll have a test, and I'll put it in Thursday morning. I'll load that in Gradebook Wizard for you. So the Zoom meeting is 11 o'clock. For those of y'all who think you need a review, have any questions about the notes, don't think you understand something, or just want to say hello, that's fine too. So we will test on Thursday once again. So be looking for that. I'll have that uploaded probably either late Wednesday or early Thursday morning. All right. Moving on into our section, the age of imperialism. Okay, you'll need to know that the time frame of the age of imperialism is considered 1800 to 1914. That does not mean that imperialism did not exist prior to that, but this time frame it really kind of turned into a race for empires around the world. And imperialism is one country's domination of the political, economic, and social life of another country. That's a term that you'll need to know. And the three key factors to imperialism in the 1800s was rival European nations built empires in their quest for power. Industrial revolution created demand for raw material. So industrialized nations sought new territories. We studied the Industrial Revolution, but as these raw materials were in great demand, they sought to get them wherever they could. And both religious fervor and feelings of racial and cultural superiority added to this. And we're going to discuss all three of these in the lesson today. The quest for power amongst nations, political rivalries. Countries wanted to keep up with one another and were afraid to fall behind for various reasons. Power is one of them, but the ultimate reason, of course, is maybe fear. Fear of another country growing too powerful and maybe taking territory from them or conquering them. So this helped fuel the race for this. Once this began, the quest for colonies seemed to have no limits, and due to this, new conflicts arose across the world, and European soldiers found themselves on remote battlefields in Asia and Africa. As you can imagine, when you're taking territory, new territory in places across the world, it's not going to come easy, and the local people are not going to be generally too happy about that. So we'll talk more in detail about that as we move forward in the chapter. The desire for new markets. Owners and operators of the factories were constantly searching for new resources and raw materials and new markets for their products, and they hoped to find them in foreign lands, and they did. I listed them there in your notes that you can look at, that you'll need to know. From Africa in particular, rubber, copper, and gold. India, cotton and jute, which is a fiber. I put that in parentheses out next to the term. And Southeast Asia, tin is what they found. So they did find markets in the raw materials they were looking for. And of course, all this did come at a price. All right, the seeking of new opportunities with new lands being explored. There were definitely new opportunities there. And imperialist countries such as Great Britain, France, and Germany needed their citizens to run newly acquired territories. So what they did is they encouraged their citizens to immigrate to some of these new colonies, these new territories. A major factor there would have been the need for nothing else, loyalty. Spreading their customs there, but having loyalty there in terms of running affairs. Because certainly, they understood there would be resentment from some of the local people So Europeans did urge their citizens to move far off colonies. In particular, the British immigrated to the far corners of the globe, many to Australia and New Zealand in the 1850s in search of gold. So that's going on. That's always going to attract people to travel. That's a very, very long journey, especially if you're coming from Great Britain. The British Empire continued to acquire vast tracts of land in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. So their territory was so large, it was global. I mean, it was all over the world, and that led to the phrase that the sun never sets on the British Empire. And it's because of the sun setting, even in Great Britain, it's coming up somewhere else in the world where they have a colony. One of the famous British adventurers who made a name for himself and a fortune was a man named Cecil Rhodes. Made a fortune from gold and diamond mines in southern Africa. And he founded a new colony there called Rhodesia, named after him. Today it's known as Zimbabwe. But he's a man you'll need to know. But he did find, a fortune in these. And as this kind of information gets back, people are finding the adventure and the fortune and the fame that comes with this. It of course attracted other people to look for the same thing. Under the heading of civilizing missions, during this time, a growing number of Catholic and Protestant missionaries set out to bring the Christian message to most of the remote corners of Africa and Asia. These are missionaries that set out. Their belief was that these people were, I guess, new and fertile territory to spread the word of God, and they had not heard of Christ, and that their job was to go take this word to them and convert them. Now, whether those local people saw it the same way, obviously sometimes they did not, and that in and of itself led to conflict. But they typically believed that Christianity and Western civilization could benefit and transform the world in a positive way, and believed that it would transform these people's lives in a positive way as well, as they set out. And then other Europeans simply just believed that Western civilization was superior to many ways of other peoples around the world. So they thought that it was, we're only doing them a favor, basically. And then in terms of taking territory, certainly a feeling of racial superiority in many of these instances, led to people thinking, or maybe not thinking, about how their actions are going to affect, the local people when they come into territory, taking resources, that kind of stuff. So these were some of the ideas that came out there from under the heading of civilizing missions. But you'll need to know that section for your test. And there are several different forms of imperialism. Term colony, a territory that an imperial power ruled directly through colonial officials. Once again, we meaning the United States, we started the 13 colonies under Great Britain. So that's a term y'all should already be familiar with. A protectorate is the country has its own government, but its politics are guided by a foreign power. And a sphere of influence, a region where the imperial power has exclusive investment and trading rights in the area. And these are three forms of imperialism. That's under the heading there. Those are the three things terms that you will need to know moving forward. So once again, a colony, a protectorate, a sphere of influence. If you have any specific questions on those terms, just make notes of any questions you might have, and then as we go into the second section of this, we're going to start talking about the partition of the taking of African territories, where most of the continent, except for basically two countries, ultimately are colonized in some form or fashion during this time frame that we're talking about. Where a lot of European countries salt territory and resources there, causing a lot of conflicts. But we'll go through those. We'll go through those on the next lesson. So once again, please, anything you don't understand in there, make a note. Think of any questions that you have. The next day lesson, we will start with the partition of Africa, and it will end in that section of Southern Africa. And all the notes for the section on the test that we'll have on Thursday is actually already in Gradebook Wizard. So you have all the notes. It's no more, no less. You should already have them for the test that will be coming up. So you can go ahead and get ahead of that and start studying that. The bookwork you did, the terms and all in there. You're going to want to, look those over, be familiar with those as well. And then I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.